Trying to pass it up to Dowling, and there's the pass to Dowling. Dowling going to take a shot. Audrey Keeter across to Keyser. Keyser shot in and goal!
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Our next match about to begin. Premier Conference matchup between CNY United and the Minnesota Shockwave for Power Soccer Shop. I'm Tony Jackson, and joining me from Glass of Chicago Fire, the one and only Joel Rodriguez. Joel, good day, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's been a wonderful day of soccer. We just finished playing Shockwave a little bit ago, so I'm excited to see how this match goes between CNY and Shockwave.
So on the floor real quick before we get started for CNY United, in goal, number 22, Ryan Charbonneau. Also on the floor, number 23, Tony Reuter. Also number 12, Peyton Sefik, and number 25, Andrew Cunningham. For the Minnesota Shockwave, number 24, Pete Winslow. Also on the floor, number 1, Chad Wilson. Riley Johnson, number 31. And in goal, number 2, Nathan Mayer. And there's a shot and a goal within the first 15 seconds. Pete Winslow to Riley Johnson, 1-0, Minnesota Shockwave. And you see here Pete Winslow, one of the hardest kickers in U.S. Power Soccer. CNY United had no chance on that one, Joel.
Absolutely, and that was a good move by Chad to fake that shot down the middle. I think it kept Peyton from jumping out too hard on that.
Indeed, and that's a really good way to get aggressive defenders to sit back, is just a fake like you're going to hit that ball, and the Shockwave worked it to perfection. So now Riley Johnson and Drew Cunningham, and heavy contact, Drew Cunningham slamming into Pete Winslow.
Really quick start right now. I think this actually works very well for Shockwave, who's definitely a tempo team, so I'm curious to see how CNY responds.
Drew Cunningham also capable of putting on quite a bit of pace on his kicks. Let's see if CNY United can do something here. Johnson coming out. Cunningham, Sefik. That ball goes out for a goal kick. Now, this match is interesting for me as a fan and a longtime Power Soccer athlete. Riley Johnson, Pete Winslow, Nathan Mayer, as kids, played on the old Courage Thunder team.
And even before that, Courage Blizzard.
So such a long time ago, those three had played together, and then they split up and formed their own teams, and now they're back together this season. And so it'd be interesting now as adults watching them play as they've had a chance to develop together and separately over the years.
Absolutely, and you can see the synergy and the chemistry is still there.
Johnson taking on Sefik. And Riley Johnson just so good one-on-one. That ball's like a magnet on his chair. And we're going to get a 2-on-1 violation. Referee Doug Wolf looking to see if the advantage was going to open itself up, but it didn't. And so an indirect free kick coming up for the Shockwave. On court 2, Atlanta Sting versus Chippewa Valley Hooligans. On court 3, RHI Sudden Impact and DAS the Cyclones. Court 4, Lakeshore Power and Boston Breakers. We'll get you updated scores as they come along. Johnson, Charbonneau, Reuter now with the ball. Pete Winslow sends it out of play. Kick in CNY United.
Another interesting dynamic with this game is that Tony Reuter hasn't been with them for most of the season, so they're going to be having to kind of reacquaint themselves with their chemistry on court, on the fly.
They will. He was out for a long time, having some issues, but he's back out there on the floor now. Good to see him out there again.
Yeah.
But this team has been together for so long, I can't imagine that it would take a long time for them to get their timing back. So we'll see Minnesota Shockwave getting ready to kick here. Pete Winslow sends that ball through. Charbonneau sends it out. And now this is a dangerous spot for CNY as Pete Winslow will want to look to bomb that ball across the box. Riley Johnson waiting at the far post. Winslow across Johnson, another goal. That play is so simple, but right now making the Shockwave unstoppable, Joel.
Absolutely. It's their bread and butter. We're looking for that far man, you know, keeping the defender on their toes on that near post. And if it gets across, it's a wide open goal, and they're capitalizing right now.
And here's an interesting thing. Now, Pete Winslow, up until the season, ever since he's had that strike force, he's always used the rounded corner guard. And this season he made the switch to a square guard, and he says he's kicking the ball harder than ever.
It definitely works. It moves the sweet spot on the guard forward by about 2 inches, so you get that extra leverage on your kicks. Not that he needed it. He was already one of the hardest kickers in power soccer.
Now just more dangerous out there with that kick.
Absolutely.
Johnson taking on Drew Cunningham. Johnson working against Charbonneau. Nicely done, Ryan Charbonneau.
Good defense.
Pete Winslow off of Cunningham. You know, some people might be wondering how Riley Johnson keeps the ball in his chair, but if you watch him play, you see he doesn't really play very quickly, or doesn't play with a lot of speed, right? He just moves, short, quick movements, right? And it allows him to keep control of that ball. And you'll see it come up. Pete Winslow off of Charbonneau. Reuter now trying to keep that ball in play, but he bounces it off the back of his chair. Peyton Sefik now. Riley Johnson lets it roll out. Kick in coming up for the Shockwave.
But back to your point, he's an extremely patient player, and seeing him against someone like Peyton, who can also be a very patient player, it's going to be an interesting dynamic.
Chad Wilson with the ball. Congratulations to Chad Wilson and his wife Stacy. They just had a new baby recently.
Yeah.
So Chad spending Father's Day away from the family to compete at Nationals, but happy Father's Day to him and all the fathers out there watching.
Absolutely. He has the opportunity to put on a good show for his kids and his wife.
Pete Winslow now setting up. Winslow, that ball off of Wilson to Johnson, and a goal.
And that's such a hard thing to defend because you don't know exactly how that ball is going to ricochet off the side of that chair, so that was a very tough read for Peyton.
You know, and Winslow bounced that almost off the back of Wilson's chair. I mean, that ball was very close to not getting across to Johnson, but they executed it perfectly. And the Shockwave now 3-0.
Again, you can see they have their foot on the gas, and it doesn't look like they're going to let off anytime soon.
Cunningham over to Sefik. Back to Cunningham. Johnson now with the ball. Drew Cunningham pushing that ball off of Johnson. Ball still in play. Sefik. That ball comes across to Reuter. Reuter stops the ball. Johnson. Sefik.
Beautiful
back to
pass.
Reuter. Oh, Reuter just could not find the angle to get that great pass by Sefik, though. Sefik's very good into turning something from nothing. And just a little bit too much pace, but Winslow touches that ball. It's going to go out for a kick-in favor of CNY. Now, CNY down 3-0, still plenty of time in this match. We're only in the 8th minute. Let's see if they can create something here.
Absolutely. We've seen from years past, they're capable of putting up points and putting them up quick.
Cunningham saw Nathan Mayer move, so he resets his positioning. Sefik keeps that ball in play. Cunningham tried to go across. It bounces off of Johnson.
Couldn't quite get enough pace on that pass.
Sefik across. Reuter,
Oh.
180 spin kick. I think Nathan Mayer would have been there to block it if he connected. Winslow to Johnson. And you see, again, Johnson, he doesn't play very fast. But, again, as you said earlier, he's just so patient. You know, he's able to just pull that ball away and take off with it. Now that's going to go out for a Shockwave goal kick.
And he really is one of those players who knows every inch of his chair, and I think that's what allows him to play so patiently.
Reuter takes that ball. Johnson's there to pick it up. That ball out of play. Kick in coming up for CNY United.
Seems like CNY has made a bit of an adjustment. We're starting to spend a little more time now on Shockwave's defensive end.
Cunningham trying to get behind Wilson there. Cunningham over to Reuter. Winslow cuts it off. Sefik with the ball. Peyton Sefik trying to create a pass out of that. Cunningham with it. That ball out of play. Referee said it's going to be Shockwave ball. Several members, current and former, of Team USA here out on the floor right now. Pete Winslow, a member of that 2011 team.
Yes.
Riley Johnson and Nathan Mayer, part of that 2017 squad for the Shockwave. And on CNY, Drew Cunningham and Peyton Sefik on that 2017 squad as well. So a lot of talent out here in this match.
Absolutely, and you can see it on display right now. I mean, just in the adjustments that CNY has already made, you can tell that the pace has slowed down a little bit. The question is it a little too late now that they're trailing 3-0?
We'll see. Tony Reuter. Good job, Pete Winslow, just cutting that ball off.
Beautiful give and go.
Cunningham. Johnson's just going to let that roll out. Winslow over to Johnson. Cunningham. Cunningham, the kick out. Sefik with the ball. Off of Johnson.
Nice control.
Riley Johnson with it. Trying to turn Sefik. It goes out of play. Kick in coming up for Minnesota.
Shockwave's set kicks have been pretty effective so far. Let's see if they have another opportunity now to score.
They scored a couple goals off of these touchline kick-ins. Winslow all the way across, blocked by Cunningham. I don't think that was quite the angle that Winslow was looking for.
But it is in a much better position now. So
it is indeed.
We see that same setup.
Sefik was ready to jump out for that ball. Winslow caught it before he was able to make contact with it. And the coaches having a conversation with referee Doug Wolf. I'm not quite sure what it's about. You're not quite sure what's going on there. Don't know if it had something to do with that chair or not. I'm not sure. Oh, and that ball deflected off of Wilson and out of play.
That was a beautiful play. I mean, they've gotten the ball across so many times that you have to respect that far winger. Chad really had a good opportunity to try and split them right there.
Now Winslow, let's see if he tries to power the ball across again. Peyton Sefik looks like he's ready this time. Let's see if Winslow can get that ball through. Winslow off of Charbonneau, and Winslow almost touched that ball, but another kick-in coming up.
You see a little adjustment with Drew Cunningham. He's now trying to move in front of Chad before he can get that moving play going to disrupt that offense.
That ball goes straight through. Charbonneau cuts it off. And now it's really kind of a chess match here. Winslow, all the firepower, but CNY doing well here to hold him off. That ball all the way across, and Johnson just misses. Let's watch that again, ladies and gentlemen. Riley Johnson, Chad Wilson let that ball slide through, and Riley Johnson just missed it.
Just barely. But you also see Peyton making that adjustment. He jumped out a little. Starting to read that far winger.
He did, so we'll see how the Shockwave adjusts to that. Johnson, Sefik, the kick out. Winslow with the ball, 2-on-1 violation on the Shockwave. Not a terrible spot for CNY United, but they probably stand to be a little bit closer. Cunningham across to Reuter. Reuter back.
Beautifully
Sefik.
done.
Cunningham. Sefik. Johnson, and now Mayer working against Peyton Sefik. Sefik trying to get that ball across to Reuter. No one there. Tony Reuter had dropped back to support Sefik. I don't think Sefik realized that he had moved back out.
Absolutely.
Drew Cunningham got that ball around Johnson, but only for a split moment. 2-on-1 violation. Advantage called by the referee, Doug Wolf. Play continues. Johnson with the ball. Johnson almost collided with Reuter. Looks like we're going to get a substitution. Chad Wilson coming out. Coming on in his place, number 21, Lindsey Minch.
A bit of contact there.
So Drew Cunningham now just to the right of the center circle here on the pitch. Cunningham, that one behind Reuter. So kicking coming up for Shockwave.
Yeah, Drew tried to change up that kick at the last second.
Winslow. Looks like he's just going to pass it off to Johnson. He doesn't really have a lot of space, so Riley Johnson's just going to take that ball, pass over to Winslow.
Beautiful pass. Is he going to catch it?
Yeah, he's going to catch it all right. That ball springs out to Johnson. Johnson. Winslow all the way across. Minch with a goal. Wonderful pass by Pete Winslow.
Wow. That ball movement was ridiculous.
Nicely done. And you see Riley Johnson just holds it for a split second. Winslow all the way across. Charbonneau had no chance on that as Lindsey Minch puts it away. 4-0. Shockwave.
This team has done a good job dominating all season, and it seems like they're doing that so far this tournament. Let's see how CNY responds.
For me, one of the favorites to win the Premier Conference. I mean, there's just so much talent on that floor. And Lindsey Minch, even though she is currently not a member of Team USA, she's also an extremely talented player.
Very, very solid. And fits in very well with the dynamic and the chemistry of this team.
So Winslow bombing across. Riley Johnson scores again. Peyton Sefik was ready for it, but he just could not catch it.
It's, again, the pace on the ball that Pete Winslow has when he kicks it.
And you see the replay here, and that ball is just traveling at such a high rate of speed.
And one thing you notice that CNY has not done that a lot of the premier teams and a lot of teams in the USPSA have adopted is they aren't necessarily playing that the European-style defense where they have the goalie ahead Although that was a corner kick, so they might not have been able to.
No, that probably would have been an illegal defense. Johnson tried to connect with Minch. It's out of play for a CNY goal kick. On court 2, Chippewa Valley Hooligans trailing the Atlanta Sting 2-0. And on court 3, RHI Sudden Impact up 2-0 over the Dassa Cyclones.
Set play well earned here by Peyton.
CNY United, let's see if they can convert this into a goal. Now, Sevic's got the ball behind Mayer, but Johnson's there to pick it up. And that's a 2-on-1 violation, but advantage called again. Now, Cunningham had hooked Johnson, but Johnson catches up to the ball, but referee Doug Wolf is going to pull this back.
Interesting moment there. I don't know if they were trying to stop the ball purposely with that 2-on-1, but the advantage didn't allow it to happen. I don't know if maybe that was the only thing that Drew could do to stop the breakaway.
Yeah, potentially. Pete Winslow, is he going to try to go all the way over to Lindsey Minch? There he goes. That ball tipped over to Minch from Johnson. And that is the halftime whistle. Minnesota Shockwave, impressive first half, putting up 5 goals on a very good CNY United team. We're going to take a break. When we come back to second half. USPSA MK Battery Conference Cup Series. We'll be back in a few minutes. They scored their first goal within 15 seconds and then proceeded to score 4 more. Minnesota Shockwave up 5-0 over CNY United. For Power Soccer Shop, I'm Tony Jackson. And rejoining me for the second half from Glasses Chicago Fire, Joel Rodriguez. And Joel, Minnesota's offense has been unstoppable in this match.
Like you said, they scored that goal in the first 15 seconds and never looked back. I mean, they've been keeping up the tempo. Despite your analogy of Riley being a patient player, they've been able to keep up the pressure.
And a tactical change for CNY, Drew Cunningham, now the designated goalkeeper. And Ryan Charbonneau playing up on attack.
I think this is a good change. You know, Ryan Charbonneau's a great player, but as a defender, you really see Andrew likes to jump in those lanes, and I think they're hoping to stop those cross-court set play opportunities.
Little contact between Sefik and Johnson. Sefik the last to touch that. It's out of play.
Now here's the test.
Drew Cunningham stacking that walled defense. Pete Winslow going to try to just overpower them. That ball almost gets across. Drew Cunningham cuts it off. Charbonneau on the play. Nathan Mayer now with the ball. Nathan Mayer coming out. Peyton Sefik. Pete Winslow, that's a 2-on-1 violation. And although we don't have a big sample size, maybe Drew Cunningham in goal could be the payoff that CNY is looking for.
And I think that's what they're looking for. You know, they play such pressure offense that if they can clear that ball out, they're going to get a lot of breakaway opportunities.
Reuter going over to Safik. That ball a little bit off the mark, and Johnson just takes it away. Reuter just pushes that ball out, allowing CNY to reset on defense. Now, you played the Shockwave earlier today. If I remember correctly, that score was 3-0 at the end.
3 or 4-0. I think it was 4-0.
How difficult, from your perspective, was it to defend that ball coming in from Pete Winslow?
You know, it's not just that he's a power kicker. He's also a very capable kicker when it comes to masking it. So he really keeps you on your toes, where you might think you know exactly where he's kicking it, and he just kind of throws you off.
Yeah, the other thing about Winslow is that not only does he have the power, but he's got the accuracy to match. And if you give him 13.5 inches, he's going to hit it.
And that makes your job so easy as that far winger. If you know where the ball is going to be every time, it makes it that much easier to score.
For those of you who are wondering, the ball in power soccer is 13 inches. And so, again, Pete Winslow, one of the most accurate kickers that you'll see. Johnson getting around Reuter. Close to a 2-on-1.
CNY is playing a little tight still on their spacing.
That ball's out of play. Goal kick coming up for the Shockwave. On court 2, Atlanta Sting still leading the Chippewa Valley Hooligans. However, the Hooligans have scored, so it is 2-1 currently. On court 3, RHI Sudden Impact lead Dassa Cyclones 4-0. And on court 4, Lakeshore Power, Boston Breakers. Boston Breakers lead 2-1. That ball off of Reuter. Good play between those two. Just trying to knock the ball off of each other. Riley Johnson won that battle.
Chad looking for the contact.
He was. He certainly had a case. Now, Peyton Sefik mishit that ball. Riley Johnson, the cross cut off by Sefik. That ball on goal. Sefik lets that ball roll out. It's going to be a kick-in for the Shockwave.
And it's so tough even when you get those breakaway opportunities, because Nathan Mayer is such a good goalie that there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to capitalize on them.
Very true. That ball gets all the way through Cunningham. Chad Wilson's there to balance it back, but it goes wide of the posts. And a goal kick coming up for CNY United. Atlanta Sting just scored again. It's now 3-1. They're taking on the Chippewa Valley Hooligans. Close to a 2-on-1 violation. Johnson.
Beautiful.
Over to Winslow. And off the post goes Pete Winslow. Great pass by Riley Johnson, but Winslow could not put it away.
That was a very, very good shot. I mean, I think he knew he had to go right to the corner because Cunningham was waiting for him.
Yeah, he was able to just turn his chair in a way to pass the ball forward with a spin kick. And, you know, a lot of us do that in practice, but it's harder to do it during the full pace of a match. Referee Doug Wolf warning Chad Wilson about the contact.
I think Chad's wondering why he got called on that because I think that's the call that he was looking for a couple minutes ago.
So we'll see how that plays out.
Shockwave is not afraid to be a physical team.
No, certainly not. I don't think that's the way they want to play, but they certainly have the people who can play that style if necessary. Atlanta Sting up 4-1 now on the Chippewa Valley Hooligans. Winslow. Oh, he tried to go back to Johnson, but was late on the swing. Now Johnson. Nice deflection there by Sefik. Nathan Mayer's going to make a play on it. Charbonneau now taking on Nathan Mayer. Ball still in play. Now Charbonneau gets it past Mayer. And Mayer, very smart move there. Fakes like he was going to try to scoop the ball back in, and he just lets it roll out.
Absolutely, he's a very smart player. And again, what might have been a scoring opportunity for a lot of breakaways was stopped by Nathan.
Oh my goodness. Pete Winslow was not expecting that ball to come back to him. He didn't really have any time to react to it, so a fantastic scoring opportunity coming up for CNY United.
Now, interesting adjustment. Drew Cunningham is normally the one taking these kicks.
Reuter hits it off of Mayer and out of play. Reuter all the way across. Sefik. Mayer cuts it off and sends it out. Reuter, Sefik, Johnson, Reuter, the last to touch it.
The opportunities are there on both sides. This is becoming a game of execution.
Indeed, and Shockwave have been very good in this match so far about executing their plays, and they've got 5 goals to show for it. Johnson still with the ball. That ball's out of play. Winslow going right on goal. Sefik is there. Pete Winslow saw open space, but just could not get that ball to go through. Good job by Sefik on that last play. Oh, and that ball out in favor of CNY United. Winslow, Charbonneau trying to get over to Sefik. That ball off of Sefik and out of play.
Shockwave ball.
I will say, despite the score, CNY doing much better this half, preventing the Shockwave from scoring. And there's a foul on Peyton Sefik.
trying to cut that off before Riley could really get a hold of it.
Now, you have to admire the ambition of Sefik to try to stall the Shockwave offense, but he's got to be careful. Winslow, Geldis, Leo Geldis sends it wide.
It was a beautiful kick across, but Riley was in the middle, so there was no one really there to receive it.
Charbonneau, Johnson. Winslow's got it. Winslow picks it up, still in play, and Sefik hits it out. Now, Pete Winslow looking to set up. Leo Geldis just kind of sitting in the background, tucked between those three CNY players. Now Johnson coming down the floor with it. The kick out, that's close to a 2-on-1, and there it is. Tony Reuter and Peyton Sefik. And CNY will do that a lot. You'll see them as they're playing. A lot of times they'll get a little too close together, and out of all the things that they do well, sometimes spacing can still be an issue.
Yeah, they keep their rotation so tight, but they do have those moments where they do cluster up just a little bit.
Pete Winslow off of Sefik. Winslow over to Johnson.
Oh.
Johnson turned a little too soon. Johnson trying to take Sefik. Johnson. Close to a 2-on-1. Pete Winslow very close. And Sefik the last to touch that. Kick in coming up for the Shockwave. Now Pete Winslow possibly seeking out Geldis at the far post. I don't know if Winslow's going to reach him from that angle. Johnson with a shot off of Sefik.
Again, they've scored so often on that far side. They were trying to bank on them creating space as they played that far winger.
I will say, as an attacker, that bevel can cause a lot of problems when you're trying to spin kick. I mean, it just kind of throws you off your rhythm, because when your front casters go over that, you just kind of feel that bump.
Yeah, it definitely happens in those corners right there. It can throw you off just a little bit, but the 5-0 score seems like it hasn't affected them too much.
Not at all. Court 3, RHI Sudden Impact lead Dassa Cyclones 4-0. Johnson hits it out of play. On Court 4, Boston Breakers still lead Lakeshore Power 2-1. And on Court 2, Chippewa Valley Hooligans still trail Atlanta Sting 4-1. That ball looked like it was out of play, but referee right there says no. That ball was definitely out of play. Kicking coming up for the Shockwave, but not before we get a substitution. Looks like Tiffany Ostrom coming into the match. Also Lindsay Minch coming in. So we got Ostrom and Minch. Pete Winslow and Leo Geldis coming out. Contact there on Riley Johnson. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Patrick Marshfield is in the match for CNY United.
Now you notice Drew Cunningham is starting to creep up a little bit. I wonder if they're going to start playing some 4-man up pressure offense.
We'll see. And there's a good pass by Charbonneau. Charbonneau, kick out from Sefik. Back over to Sefik from Charbonneau. Johnson Good clearance.
Do you think that's something we'll see adopted in the U.S.? I know for those who really do follow and who've been watching the EPFAs and things like that, you know, England especially like to play 4-man up, and I wonder if any of these U.S. clubs will start to emulate that.
We'll see. I think the United States teams, some of them have tried to implement a similar system, but nothing quite like the English 4-up system that they use. I mean, you have to have 4 supremely talented players to execute that style successfully. And the English national team certainly have that. But, I don't know, we'll see. You've seen the Borp teams, you know, with Chris Finn out there. He's so knowledgeable. Try to implement something along those lines. It wasn't quite like the English do it, but I don't know. It's kind of a hard question to answer. You're seeing more teams making the goalkeeper an active part of the offense.
Yes.
But it's not really the same as the English 4-up system.
I think one of the closest things I can remember was last year's sudden impact team, where Jordan Dickey would play goalie and sometimes play back, and he would creep up to about that half-court line just to keep the offensive pressure up.
And you're certainly seeing that here. Earlier today I had a chance to watch the San Jose Steamrollers versus Circle City Rollers at the end of that match. Michael Archer had the goalkeeper vest on. So, I mean, again, not really a true 4-up system, but you're starting to see more goalkeepers becoming an active part of the attacking play for teams. So
that seems more like what a lot of the French teams are doing rather than the English teams.
Yeah, those two countries have wildly different styles of play.
Yes. But they execute them to perfection.
They do indeed. Charbonneau cut off by Johnson. Cunningham's just going to let that roll out. No, he's not. He's going to take it. Tiffany Ostrom was there. So good heads-up play by Cunningham. That ball comes out. 2-on-1 violation on the Shockwave. Minch and Johnson.
That was pretty close. I think it could have gone either direction.
On court 4, Lakeshore Power have equalized. They're level at 2. And on court 3, RHI Sudden Impact have added another goal. They're up 5-0.
Riley Johnson is so good at absorbing that the chips as Peyton's trying to create that space, but he keeps it glued on him.
He really does, and just being able to turn his chair out enough to keep that ball from getting away from him.
Mm-hmm.
He's just able to gauge how much to turn out and still maintain possession of the ball. Sefik. Johnson backs up. The cross. Marshfield back across. It's cut off by Johnson. And now Riley Johnson heading down the floor.
One-on-one.
Riley Johnson against Drew Cunningham. Is Johnson going to be able to get past him? No, he's not.
Oh.
But Peyton Safik, that ball chips off his chair and goes over the goal line. I got to imagine that's going to be counted as an own goal.
Wow, that was very unfortunate. He did a good job of stopping it, but just an unlucky bounce off of Peyton's wheel guard right there.
Unlucky is probably the best way to put that, Joel. I mean, Peyton did the right thing by tracking back and trying to come in and cover for Cunningham, but it just took an unfortunate bounce off his chair. And now Ostrom taking on Sefik. Tiffany Ostrom getting turned around. Good move, Peyton Sefik. Sefik taking on Chad Wilson. That ball out of play. So Johnson is out of the match. Well-earned break for Riley Johnson. He played it fantastic this match.
Absolutely.
So now a corner kick coming up for CNY United. Chad Wilson and Leo Hieldis going to try to maintain that clean sheet for the Shockwave. Sefik. That ball across Cunningham. The shot just wide of the post.
Beautiful touch by Cunningham, but not quite enough space there at the post.
And the clean sheet remains intact. So Wilson to Minch, and referee Doug Wolf blows the final whistle. Minnesota Shockwave, again within the first 15 seconds, score their first goal and then proceeded to hang 5 more on the Shockwave, or excuse me, on CNY United. And they're going to win this one 6-0. We're going to take a break. More action coming up in just a few minutes. Joel, thank you very much for joining me.
Pleasure as always.
It is certainly a pleasure. Good luck with the rest of your tournament.
Likewise.
Thank you very much, and we will be back in a few minutes with more action from the 2019 USPSA MK Battery Conference Cup Series.